What's up, bro?
Hey Phil, how's it going, man?
Good, man. Dude, I know you're the land guy, so actually, you know what? I've been actually looking into land recently, and I've actually learned a lot from you. And I'm just here to just grill you on a couple of other land stuff. But I actually want to know, I know we talked a while back, and I know you went through a lot of different things with trying to wholesale, build out CRM, and then you went into land. Why did you end up going to land instead of the other avenues of real estate? Just kind of give me a reminder, because I don't remember I don't really remember how you got into land.
Yeah, so I got into sub two right when interest rates spiked, and I wanted to build up my portfolio creatively, and that was my whole goal of getting into sub two. And I've been in other communities and things like this in the past, and when I got in, Discord was still around, which I'm a huge fan of, and I'm glad it's coming back because I think you can interact with people in the community a lot better than in Kajabi or in Facebook. There's just a lot of difficulties there. But anyways, I was in the integrator group because that's kind of like my background, and that's what I was doing a lot of prior to getting into Sub Two, just for small businesses that my friends run online. And I ended up meeting my business partner in there named Austin Marvel, who was just in there saying that he's looking for an integrator to help him in land. And
Oh,
that's how our conversation began. One thing led to another. Um, I had no aspirations of getting into land, but Austin sold me kind of on it. And at that time, there was not a whole lot of people doing land in Sub 2.
yeah,
Like Jeff Smith and Ty Briggs, Dennis Yasko, but like those guys kind of were kind of off doing their own thing
sure.
when I first got in.
What was the sales pitch, bro? What did he sell you on?
He he sold me on the no tenants, no toilets, no bullshit kind of thing, and it's true because over time now this is year three for us, just focusing on land, and I've actually had a lot of conversations with land agents who were also real estate investors that had large rental portfolios that they end up selling off, and now they just lease land instead. Like I met an agent that has over 1,000 notes in one county, and he's like,
Wow.
it's great. He's like, I used to have a 100 unit single family portfolio in South Carolina, and then I sold it all off, and I just started buying land parcels, and I rent them out to people, and it's I just become the bank, and I don't have to worry about all the other things. And he goes, if they end up stop paying me, I'm the bank. I can take it back, and typically I can just put it back out on the market if I need to. But I get all that value, the appreciation, plus
Sure.
their payments to me over time. So
Wait, so you're leasing land, but the person that you're leasing to owns it. It's kind of like it's a seller finance kind of
yeah,
situation.
yeah.
Okay.
There's a guy out there named Eddie Speed who talks about land notes. So he's a big guy in the space. Like if you're interested in understanding how to get into that business, he's a really good resource to kind of learn about this space. But I mean, you're just setting up a note servicing, going to a note servicing company, and essentially just leasing out the land. Specifically for that individual, he was telling me, he does it for like large hunting tracts. Like if people want to set up like a group of people want to go in on a big piece of land to hunt, they'll just lease it from him, or farmland, or hey, I want to put a couple homes out on a piece of property, but we don't want to go through a land bank. We'd rather just go through you.
I see. Okay, and then okay, so it's so you can lease land, but it's is that the terminology of seller financing land?
Yeah, if you're leasing it back out to somebody, you'd just be like somebody signing a lease with you in your rental property.
Then why is there a note on there if there's just a lease?
Well, it could be either. I mean, I guess you could say, hey, yeah, you're going to lease this land for me because you're going to use it for your business, or hey, yeah, it's a lease to own. You could do,
Oh,
rent
okay.
it.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I see. So I've been struggling with how to find land, and I think you end up giving me landinsights.co or
Yep.
.com.
Yeah.
Um, I've been kind of using that, but I haven't like actually used it. Where do you? I know it's a Chrome extension. Do you put in your Chrome extension and then you just like what search like Zillow, Redfin, and just kind of like look through there, or like how's that actually?
Yeah, that's just their Chrome extension is just a way for you if you're using Redfin, Zillow, any of the land sites or any of the real estate sites to just comp for land. That's not their tool. Their actual tool is a large data provider. So there's Land Insights, there's Land Vision, there's
Mhm.
Land Portal, and there's Price. We started out with Price because that was kind of the way when we first got in. It was kind of, hey, let's pull 10,000 leads from one county and send out mail
Uh,
and wait for responses back via our letters. But we were doing this at the peak of COVID, and everybody and their mother was doing it. So like we really didn't stand out. So we only did that for a short period of time, and then we switched our marketing strategies to cold calling. But going back to the data aspect of it, Price was kind of our first iteration. But since then, over just the last few years, AI has really started to come into play in everything. And Land Insights was created by a gentleman named Sumter, and he and also Land Portal from the Apke brothers. They're very similar tools, but they were smart about it because they're leveraging AI
yeah.
on the GIS to help you
Oh,
really take a sniper approach into what you want to go after. So, like for us, our buy box typically is 20 acres and above, less than 30% floodplain, and at least 150 feet of road frontage, because that gives us the ability to subdivide when we're looking at these large parcels. Because you need the road frontage access to have the opportunities to go potentially put in flag lots or some type of shape and configuration to cut it down into smaller parcels. So those tools give you a lot of insights on that, and you can
wait,
avoid
before you go
landlocked
further,
properties.
what's a flag lot?
It's just the shape of the lot. It looks like a flag.
Oh,
So, say there's a 20-acre piece of parcel and you want to put in like 5 flag lots, like you would take the first one and you draw up a skinny road, and then it would be a flag at the end, and then you would do the one right underneath it, and then you basically just it's like a puzzle. So,
right.
uh, but yeah, people
So
will
you
do
would do
that.
that on like a 20-acre lot, and then that would sell, huh? Like homeowners wouldn't have an issue with that.
No, because like some of those types of properties, you're buying out kind of rural areas. So
Yeah.
as long as they just have their acreage, they're okay with it. I wouldn't put flag lots in the middle of like, uh, a suburban area. You would want to get a better piece of land that you could cut down into, 1 acre opportunities. But I mean, all the data tools have their pros and cons. But Price we still use. They have really good comping, and their data sources are getting better. And Land Insights, just from a visual perspective, the ability to do this anywhere you can in the country. Like I'm out of Chicago, but our markets are in the Carolinas. I have yet to step foot on any piece of property that we have bought or sold. I've only looked at it through Google Earth or through Land ID or the comping tools that we use.
Okay. Um, so like I know you do 20 acres and above for subdivides. Is that all you focus on? And then like what's the exit there? I know you can subdivide, but are you actually going through the whole development process, or are you just gonna subdivide it and then sell it off to a developer? Like what's the game plan there?
Yeah, so if we can do minor subdivides, obviously those are a lot easier. So
Yeah.
we can do those in the Carolinas pretty easy, where we're just cutting up, at least less than 10 lots. But each county varies, so it depends on the county as well. It's not just the
Right.
state regulation. But we can get just a couple 5-acre tracts in there. You don't have to put infrastructure in. So then you're just going to get a new survey done, cutting it up, and then those are pretty easy to move online, where you don't even have to get a realtor involved. You could use broker lists. You could put those on Facebook Marketplace, like we sold our last Subdivide in the fall, and we're able to move those properties on our own after we took title. So
How big was that subdivided? How much you sell it for?
yeah, so we acquired it from, and here's the nice thing, because a lot of this land people just acquire, and they have no, like this gentleman lived in San Diego, the land's in South Carolina. He's like, I haven't been there in 20 years. It was in my family name. It got put into my name. You guys can have it, type of thing. We paid 135,000. spent about overall cost with soil report and survey about 40,000, and then another 6,000 in closing costs, which then we ended up selling it for 364.
So like you're all in right around what, like 780, let's just call it. Or sorry, 180, and then you sold for what? 334?
364.
Oh wow, that's a good spread.
Yeah, great spread. That was a really big deal for us, and that's kind of when the light bulb went off of like, when if anybody that's listening to this was at Squad Up and Pace was going through like your cash flow of like, hey, it's going to take 200 plus single family homes to get to that $50,000 cash flow. Like, I do the same thing in my head with land. I'm like, I would rather work these bigger deals, only do about 10 a year, rather than, hey, send me 100 infill lots and try and flip those over and over again. And people have that business because they've developed really good relationships with builders and buyers in that area. And those are nice because those are like your singles that you need the cash flow to keep the marketing going.
Yeah.
So we'll still pay attention to the smaller stuff. It's just from a marketing perspective on our own, we are trying to go, more upstream. But, we just got a 22-acre parcel that came in about a month ago. Guy wanted 3,800 an acre.
Uh-huh.
I comped it out around 8,000 an acre. Okay. So went under contract and went out and went and got our photos done for it. I threw it up on Facebook Marketplace. Within about a week and a half, the neighbor noticed it, called us up, said, I want this property. I don't want anyone being behind me. And we ended up selling it to them just for $6,000 an acre. But that's a quick $48,000 spread. And all it took was us to, have the conversation with the seller, get a contract out, get all of our due diligence done. And it's not that easy every time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Like, always be marketing is what's going to help you find those leads. And that's been the learning processes for us, because we shift from mail to cold calling. We turned off marketing for 6 months because we were trying to get our operations in line. And now we're really trying to scale this year and get going, because we have 2 cold callers. We go after about 10,000 properties a month. And that's our primary markets is in South Carolina.
South Carolina. So the first deal that you mentioned that you made probably over 6 figures on, obviously you did make over 6 figures on. How long did that take, the whole process from start to finish?
Yeah, so we went under contract in April of last year. We didn't close till July, but a lot of that was because we didn't know what we wanted to do with the property.
Okay.
And I was and he was very open to timelines. Like, he's just like, yeah, like, close it whenever, just, keep me updated. So I then was trying to figure out what we wanted to do. There wasn't a lot of comps. I started talking to timber buyers. I was going to flip it to some people in Texas that were going to come in and buy timberland. I ended up pushing it out to some other land developers in Subto, and I reached out to Rachel Burnett, and I was like, just looking for funding. I was just like, hey, I'm probably going to double close on this. It's going to be a timber flip. Would love to see if you want to come in and do this deal with us. And then she was the one that she was like, no, do you see all this road frontage? This could be a subdivide. And I was like, interesting. I was like, walk me through this, like, because our goal last year was to do one subdivide. This, I was not thinking it was going to be this property just because of the location. I was like, there's no way I'm going to cut this up and sell it to other people based off the location. Rural? Yes, it was very rural. But what I've quickly realized is it's about an hour outside of Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay.
A lot of people are trying to leave the cities to get bigger pieces of land.
Oh.
And it's right over the county line of Lexington and Aiken County. And a lot of the jurisdictional things are going on in Lexington that people are trying to move to Aiken. And it ended up being a home run for us. So we closed in July. Got the survey done within about 3 or 4 weeks. And while the survey was being done, we started pre-marketing the lots on Facebook the end of August. And by the second week of September, everything was closed. And then we finalized all the transactions right before Thanksgiving.
Okay, so you got connected with someone in Subto that knew the area, knew the location of what was happening in the area, and then they told you their whole take about it, which made you rethink, and then you basically looked at it that way, and then from there, you subdivided everything, and then you sold the individual lots separately to people in the neighborhood or in the area that's looking through Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And you sold it lot by lot after you subdivided it.
Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And then who actually funded all of this?
Yeah. So who did fund it? We brought Rachel in. Rachel and Jerry Burnett came in and funded the deal for us through some people that are family friends with self-directed IRAs.
Okay.
So they were the ones that funded it. We just did it on an interest-based loan, and we're able to get the capital and take care of everything.
And that was like about 6 months?
Yeah.
6
It
months?
definitely could have been a lot faster, but that was like, there's
First
learning
time.
curves and things, but you also have like flips like what we just did where it's about a month. It could have been even faster if title didn't slow down, but no real estate deal is linear, so there's always a hiccup.
So the second deal you had was a month, and you basically just negotiated, you got under contract, and then doing your due diligence period, got photos, got the survey done, and then you just...
that's just got the photos in. That wasn't our second deal. That's just our most recent deal that we just did. Yeah, we're closing. We close next Wednesday, and we're using Rhea Campbell for transactional funding for that property.
Cool. And you have a full-time job. All right, cool, bro.
Yeah, I have a full-time job. I have 2 young kids. I have another one on the way.
Oh, congrats.
Yeah, it's a little crazy, but that's why I'm here, and that's why I'm trying to get ahead. I mean, we joined Owners Club to take action, and that's what we're really focused on this year. Austin and I both being in it, and we're really trying to scale this thing so I can exit my W-2 hopefully by 2026. That's if I can do January 2026, that's my North Star that we're focusing on right now.
Okay, sweet dude. Okay, comping land. How the hell do you comp land?
Yeah, it is difficult. And sometimes there's not a lot of comps out there to support things. So bringing these deals to people that haven't done land before, they get extremely skeptical. But it's all about the network too. So if you know good land agents in the area and you know good realtors and you bring these properties, for example, the one that we're closing on next week in Edisto, the Subdivide that we had presented at Squad Up.
Yeah.
The demand is super high, but there's not a lot of land out there to comp off of. So it's taken me, I'm using deep research mode in ChatGPT now. Okay. And I love it because it can scrape like 15 or 16 sites in a matter of, minutes compared to that would have taken me hours on end. And I can actually find additional leads and information that I probably wouldn't have found because there's more and more land sites popping up that people are selling land on that might not end up on Redfin or Zillow, which is where traditionally a lot of people go, or land.com.
Yeah.
So when it comes to comping land, I try to keep it within a 5 to 10 mile radius.
Okay. And
really try and narrow in on like the acreage size that we're going to potentially cut the lots up. So when we get detailed comp reports from Price. They're about 16 pages. So I can get a lot of information from that too. And I drop that into deep research mode to help me analyze everything as well, which is nice. And these are all new things, we've just been doing the last month or two. But before that, it was me spending about 30 minutes every lead coming in, just trying to like analyze it to see if it was a good deal or not, which takes up a lot of our time. And those are the things that we're trying to solve by using AI agents in our business moving forward. So
so deep research and ChatGPT mode is like $200 a month. What is that?
Yeah, it's $200 a month. But if you have the pro account, you get 5 free deep researches you can use a month. Cool. But I mean, for $200, it's cheaper than a VA, and it's a write-off. So
it is. Okay, so you have this deep research model. You train the model, you give it instructions, and then it goes out and does the thing after you give it give it its feedback, you give it input, whatever, and it does the research. How long does that usually take for you to underwrite the deal now with the AI agent?
It still takes me like 30 to maybe 60 minutes, just because like I am so analytical and super conservative
Yeah,
with like everything we do, and I want to make sure that everything seems right before I give Austin like the final go ahead of like this is the price that we need
yeah,
to offer. But it's also a confidence thing too. Like you know, like that's the one thing if you're new into real estate is like, and it kind of sounds stupid at first, but like they teach you that in the sub two is like just go online and underwrite deal after deal. You know, us switching to cold calling last year before we got a lead manager and switched cold caller providers, but like we were getting 60 leads a month, and like I was looking at all of them, so I was doing a lot of underwriting and a lot of time, and
yeah,
a lot of them were crap, but like I got a good method down,
right.
and I was able to record a video of me doing it in under 25 minutes, and then I shared, and I shared it and turned it into an SOP, and then I had a guy come in who wanted to learn about it. I'm like, here you go, like here's 150 leads that you can go through and underwrite, and there's your free training, um,
Oh, nice.
just to kind of learn about it and understand it. But yeah, so it's a very methodical process. There's I think that's a big opportunity is to try and figure out how to get better land data on sites like that, or like create a source that you can, because obviously not as much land moves like houses, and there's a million comps
Yeah,
for houses.
there is. You ended up mentioning marketing. You do cold calling now. Is that all you do? Do you do an SMS, any texting in your outreach?
Not for cold outreach, but for reactivation on leads that maybe we have spoken with that have gone cold. So now we're using the conversational AI bots in Go High Level.
Okay.
So we'll move them into there, and they'll sit there for like 30 or so days. And then if they don't get back to us, then if they don't get back to us, then it activates, and then it reaches out via text message. We're thinking about doing recorded voicemails, but for just standard cold outreach, I just focus on cold calling with the type of data that we are pulling from
Yeah.
and making these campaigns a little bit smaller. I'd rather start there. And I mean, a lot of these initial conversations that Austin's having from the acquisition side, it's just like building rapport and letting them know who we are, because you can't do that with a piece of direct mail, in my opinion.
Yeah, you really can't.
Yeah.
And like normally, like your from start to finish, like when it comes down to when you contact the lead, cold call the lead, on average, I know this is gonna be different every lead you talk, but normally how long does it take to start that selling process? So I call you as a landowner, I'm like, hey Nick, I want to buy your land. You're like, yeah, let's talk about it, let's build some rapport, and then like maybe 2 months later you decide to sell me the land. It's like, do you have your metrics and how long that usually takes from like cash conversion
Now,
cycle?
now that we moved to Go High Level, because we
Yeah.
used to use Pebble, they have a
Okay.
new dashboard capabilities. We just started building out all those KPIs.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we're trying to get back to people within 24 to 48 hours after they talk to our cold callers. And then our lead manager will go in and do the initial due diligence for us. And then Austin will reach out to those folks within 24 to 48 hours. And then from there, we could be sending out a contract by the end of the day. We could be sending a contract up by the end of the week, depending on their pain.
Yeah.
And then, another example is we have a property that I want so bad, and the guy wants to sell it to us, but he's got survey issues that we've been working with since last April. And like we stay in constant communication, but that could be a 300 home entitlement project that would be really big for us. So it's just all about building the rapport with him and keeping him happy, and letting him know that we're just an advocate for him and can be here for whatever we can do. So like there's those situations too.
Mm.
So some of them are fast, but the faster ones are going to be the smaller lots. You know, when you go upstream with these bigger acreages, everybody's like, I want $1 million. I'm like, well, let's walk back. Like, why do you want $1 million? Because I can tell you right now, the data does not show that. And You just gotta be logical with them. Some people want to hear it, some people don't. I think the exact same thing that is happening with the small businesses in America is going to happen in land. I've been trying to find data on this to see the age of landowners in America right now and how many are going to slowly start to die off and how this land's just going to end up in trust or probate or some way or another, and try and help be that middleman with maybe some of these kids that all of a sudden get this land, they have no idea what to do with it. Same with these small businesses. Hey, don't sell them to private equity, sell them back to us so we can help get them to the right people. Because the more I've been in this business now, the more we talk to people of like, hey, I'm just trying to build a homestead for my family. I don't want to be in the city anymore. I want to get out. I want to have some space, a little more freedom. And, doing these subdivides and hearing these stories from these buyers now, it's kind of opened up my eyes of like, hey, this should be part of our Mount Everest. This is what we're trying to help achieve. I think 3 years ago, I'd be like, I'm just trying to flip some land to
Trying to make some money.
I'm just trying to make money. But now, you get into it and you see the other aspects of like building a business, and you can see all the pros and cons and the positives. So
Okay. So how many different ways? Well, let me ask you this. Like, why do you think land is such a hard niche to get into for like people that are transitioning from like wholesaling to land acquisition? Because I'm thinking about transitioning to land acquisition just because, well, wholesaling sucks. Honestly speaking, wholesaling homes sucks. There's just too much competition. That's one thing, and then obviously the learning curve. What you just ended up telling me about like comping properties like 30 or comping lands like 30 plus minutes. I'm like, geez, I don't want to do that. Right. So like, is that one of the obstacles that people have to get over? Like what's your like take on it comparing the two worlds?
I still think it's an education piece too. I just don't think I think a lot of people overlook it. They just don't look at the dirt. They just look at the house. They don't even think about. They might be like, oh, let's just like brokers deal with that. Like, there's no real business there. I mean, even some of the biggest voices in the land space, you go to their YouTube channels and like some of their YouTube clips only have like 900 views. And I'm like, this YouTube video is gold. There's so much. Like, Pace was on with Kendall on, he's got a great YouTube channel called Only Land Fans. It's a awesome name for a podcast. And Pace did a fire 1 hour podcast talking about like how the 1% of real estate investors are in land, and how this next 5 to 10 years is going to be such a booming opportunity for people to buy land and develop it, with where the regulations are with the current administration, to where things are going on with affordability. That's why you see all these modular homes starting to pop up in these companies. I mean, Pace is acquiring one. There's other people within Owners Club and Subto that I've talked to that have them, and that's what they're looking to do. You got the tiny home movement and everything else going on. I think it's kind of like a renaissance opportunity. And I also think people think the data isn't there either. You go back to what uh, Jerry Norton talked about at Squad Up, about never in our lives have there been the access to this type of data. And there's a couple that run the Land Academy show, and they've been in land for over 30 years. And some of their earliest podcasts, like just talking about their stories about how they would just go to the county and they would just get these fat files, and they would have to go APN by APN and just look it up on like a standard map. Like,
It's
could you
crazy.
imagine that's how you were doing your real estate investing? Like, but now it's so easy. But like, I think people just get overwhelmed, and you get the shiny object syndrome because there's so much information that people just don't know how to pick a lane, and maybe that's why people don't want to get into land.
Well, on top of that, like, so, Pace ended up mentioning like shiny object syndrome is like people have it, people get it, but you have it because you don't understand what it takes in order for you to get a deal. So for land, I know you just started your new, CRM system, but based on your past data, do you know how many potential leads or potential prospects in order for it to become a lead, and then how many leads for it to become a deal or a contract? Do you know that,
Yeah,
like, for you?
yeah. So I'll tell you, our first year, we bootstrapped the whole thing with education. In our first year of marketing, it was about $22,000 that we spent between
Okay.
systems, marketing, and education and land, because we went outside of Subto to learn about it with a guy named Travis King, who runs the Land Boss community.
So you
And
educated yourself first, right?
yeah, educated myself. He gave the whole lead gen system of what to do with mail.
Okay.
And at that time, he's like, "You need to send 10,000 mailers out a month." And I was doing the math. I'm like, "That's really expensive."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Austin, we're gonna figure this out by sending only 10,000 pieces of mail out this year, and we're gonna try and make a deal work. We can get a proof of concept to make sure this actually works."
Right.
That metric is if they say you send out 10,000 pieces of mail in your first year, you should get one deal for every 8,000 pieces of mail you send.
Okay.
We got two.
Oh,
We
better.
started, yeah, we got two. So we got five, every 5,000 pieces of mail. We got our deals done in our first year, but we only sent out 10,000 pieces of mail. When you talk to some of the heavy hitters in the space, they're like, "Wait, what? Like you only, like Rhea Campbell sends out 200,000 pieces of mail a year."
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, and over 220,000 text messages. So like there is some serious marketing there. But then when you think about the spreads, it's there. You just got to have your systems and processes in place to deal with that many leads. So like when it was just Austin and I trying to make this a side hustle, I didn't want to take the risk of that and like all of a sudden get inundated with too much information and then just like blowing up our spend on a bunch of marketing. But yeah, we did our first two deals only on 10,000 pieces of mail in year one, and we cleared $85,000 the last month of the year. So
Oh, that's amazing.
our campaign went out in January of that year, and we closed our first two deals in our last one was in December, and the one before that was in November. So like, and that's a big thing. I think like if you're getting into land, don't stop marketing in the fall and the holiday time. Like you just got to get through that, because I think a lot of people stop and then it just slows down your momentum. And then from a cold calling perspective, I don't know, it's hard because we left that cold calling company because they were just feeding everything to us. There was not a filter. There was
Okay.
not a true filter. And that's why I was like, okay, we're in it. We have too many leads. We're underwriting everything. A lot of this stuff makes no sense. And we paused marketing for the back half of last year. So last year we ended up taking that one subdivide and turning it into 8 opportunities. And then we also did another deal, just a quick flip in that same year. But then we were able to take that capital that we made and put it into our new operating system for this year, and brought
Okay.
on the 2 cold callers and stuff. So next time we chat, I'll have
Better
some
numbers.
good KPIs, because
Yeah.
we were just on a call with our operation guy about that.
Yeah. What are you guys tracking now? Like what KPIs now that you learned the lessons? Where are you, like, what kind of KPIs are you tracking now moving forward?
Yeah, amount of properties we're pulling a month,
Okay.
and then what's being qualified, what's disqualified, what's our speed to lead,
Uh-huh.
and trying to figure out how fast we're getting back to leads, and then getting down to the point of like how many contracts are we sending out a week,
Yeah.
and what's our average spread, so we can get to these revenue numbers, that we want to achieve by the
What
end of
what
the year. So
what's the goal for this year?
we want to hit just north of 1 million this year,
Okay.
but you're looking at I would probably say a 30 to 40% profit
Yeah.
off that.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good
Yeah,
for for wholesaling land. And you guys are just wholesaling land just in general. You're not going to keep any of it. You're just going to subdivide it or entitle it and then just kind of sell it off.
for now. But I think as we go upstream and we think about, hey, why don't we have this big piece of land, why don't we just take it down ourselves and maybe put a modular home community on it, or let's do self storage because we know it's by the lake in South Carolina, and let's get some cash flow other ways. And I think over time that's definitely going to be options for us.
Okay.
We've got connections now with the guy that does data centers, and wants us to help them find land around that, and that could be a good opportunity for us. I wouldn't keep the data center, but
Yeah.
those are just different extra strategies versus just like, let's give it to an individual buyer, out on Facebook Marketplace or the MLS.
Probably lease the land, right? You can lease the land to a data center
Yeah.
and then make some money
Yeah.
off that. That's super passive because obviously you're not responsible for any of the
Yeah.
improvements. You're just going to be just leasing the land.
The hunting clubs too. That's a good one.
How long are the normal leases of land? Like what, 5 years, 10 years?
Yeah, I think it varies. I mean, you just have to set up the contracts based off of it. But yeah, I mean, there's other ways too where like there are note buyers just in the space that like if that Subdivide that we did last year, one of the lots we were thinking about doing seller finance on. It was our last lot, but the neighbor person that ended up buying the lot next to just bought both of them. But if we end up seller financing that, what we were going to do is we were just going to charge him 10% more than the current purchase price, put him on a 7 to 10 year loan
Okay.
at 7% interest. And then we would take that in and then sell that note to a land note buyer, and then they would pay us over that. And then that's how we get our spread back.
Okay. Yeah, you're just going to be basically structuring terms and then selling it at a discounted for the other note buyer, which makes sense. Give me some of your technology that you're currently using. I know you're using Go High Level for your CRM system. Have you already built that all out for yourself, like as far as your automations and all that stuff already? I know you're really good at automation, Nick, so I know
Yeah.
you probably spent a freak ton of time doing that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's nice too, because we also have some VAs that have Go High Level experience now. So, being able to leverage them while I'm at my day job to help us out on, some of the small things now is kind of taken some stuff off my plate so I can focus on other things on the
Where are
dispo.
your VAs from?
Where?
Yeah.
The Philippines.
Okay. Got it. So they use Go High Level as your technology stack for your CRM. What else do you use within the land business?
Yeah. So we use OpenPhone for all of our communications.
You
Google
don't use
Business.
Go High Level for your phone system?
No, we don't dial through there. There is an integration that you can do with OpenPhone. We just haven't done it. I mean, because Austin and I both, because like I love OpenPhone's UI interface
Yeah.
and their AI recording and the transcripts, and Austin and I both being virtual from each other. Like if he had a phone call with a seller, what
Uh-huh.
I'm going to do is like I'm going to be able to take the AI transcripts from OpenPhone and send them to the opportunity. So
Okay.
then I can see the whole conversation in a bite size, like when I'm underwriting. Because the other thing I like to do is I like to listen to the seller calls, but that takes time because sometimes Austin might be on the phone with them for 20 minutes. And having these AI summaries now, I could get an idea of like, okay, how low can I undercut this guy on this deal that he might take it just based off what he's telling me. And then like, okay, this guy really wants closer to market. Let's give him closer to like 80% of value as a starting point rather than maybe 30%
Right.
of value.
Okay.
So stuff like that. So OpenPhone, Go High Level. We use Price. We use Land Insights.
Okay.
Uh,
How much does
yeah,
price and land inside usually cost?
Land Insights is $500 a month,
Okay.
and then Price is about $600 a year.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
way
But
cheaper.
then you got to pay for the data for out of Price if you're pulling data out of Price. But we primarily use it for comping to pull our comp reports out of it. You get 25 a month with that. They have their own like data tools in there that are built off Tableau. So if I want to go in there and compare and contrast with Land Insights, I can do that. And then we use Land ID as kind of like our go-to to like look at the properties. So because Land ID, I can go in because everything looks great on a GIS or a map that's flat, and then you hit the 3D model, and you're like, wait, this is a freaking mountain. I can't do
Uh,
anything with that.
Topographic charts and all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you use
And then
those.
Google Earth's free.
Yep.
So Google Earth Pro on your computer, that's free to use. And the GIS is great. And then the other nice thing is like you need to do your due diligence. There's people at the county that this is their whole job. So you just call up people in zoning, you call utilities, you can get a lot of that stuff confirmed. It has kind of been nice with the lead manager now they're doing some of that for me, or are actually able to confirm it with the sellers, where sometimes we weren't able to do that in the past, um, which speeds up my process and confidence on comping. Because if I know we have access to city water and sewer, like that brings up the value significantly right out of the gate, and I know that we can make a serious move on the property.
Okay, cool, man. That's great. And do you have any civil engineers on your team too as well that you have in South Carolina?
I wouldn't say he's on our team, but he's
Right.
partnering with us.
Yeah.
He's out of Charleston, and we're about to do our first deal with him and his team. Austin, because he's big on social media, had
Yeah.
made a post in a group out of Charleston. They saw us, they gave us a call, and we ended up building a connection there. And we're working currently on a potential 70 home um, entitlement project, which will be our first one.
Okay.
We're kind of just gonna we brought them the landowners, and then they're gonna do the project, and then we're gonna get a piece of the pie at the end after everything's done, and essentially just kind of piggyback and learn the whole process because we brought the Novation agreement in. So what we're doing is this owner, they're out of state. They inherited the property from their parents who had passed away. It went through probate. They got everything done. We typical seller, we want developer money. The first conversation, we're like, well, you don't have development land yet. Like, there's nothing there, so we can give you a quick cash offer just to buy it from you, and then we were just going to go in and do a minor subdivide on the one end, and then potentially flip it to a builder on the other end. And they're like, well, that's not what we want to do. So, leveraging creative finance, we put together a Novation agreement, and then we're creating a new LLC where 50% of the LLC will be the landowner, and then 50% will be the developers, which is us and the civil engineering team that we got connected with.
Okay.
And then from there, we'll go in, operate, do everything, and then we'll get it ready to paper lots and get it off to like a Mungo or a DR Horton, because they're both building in that area of Columbia, South Carolina.
Okay, so there's a couple of questions I want to ask before we wrap up on that particular deal structure. I'm assuming you learned all of this in your first year in regards to structuring deals. I'm presuming, and plus Pace Morby Seller Finance create the structure, right? I'm just saying that's probably a yes. How did you convince the seller to do this? Obviously, you had to educate them about the process of entitlement, I'm presuming, and then you made them more aware of like the process, and then you structured the deal from there. Is that kind of
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, and I used a lot of ChatGPT, and yeah, I mean, like that's I mean, that's like that is everybody's most powerful resource right now, is just like I use it to help build out my contracts before I send it to my attorneys. I talk to it to try and figure it out, because like we knew we wanted to do an innovation agreement. We didn't know how to structure it, and I basically went to ChatGPT and said, "Hey, here's this piece of property. We need to do it between these three people. How should I structure it?" And you're using the new '03 model, '04 model, and it starts spitting out, a lot of good intel, and you can kind of figure out how to structure it. But yeah, if it was 2, 3 years ago when we first got into land, I would have just been like, there's no opportunity here. This guy wants developer money. I have no idea where to go. The only opportunity then was, there's a couple like guys in the space that are big in entitlements, but they want $100,000 for their education courses, which is crazy. Um, but now, like, you can scrape the internet with ChatGPT and figure out all their little hidden secrets very easily.
Right.
And I just kind of like built out a bot to like figure that out and get that structure in place. But convincing the landowner
Yeah.
was a lot of Austin,
Okay.
and then they wanted credibility. And then when they wanted credibility, we're like, okay, we got to go find some civil engineers. And just so happened, Austin made a photo. It was just kind of like hit us at the right time, right place, right time. And because they had a rule subdivide that they were trying to get rid of, and I'm like, well, we have an entitlement deal that we don't know how to manage, but we got it locked into this contract. And they're like, yeah, we need to get on a call with you guys, because I don't understand how you got it structured this way, because this isn't the
Normal.
landowners don't do this. They usually want 70+% or something. So the
Okay.
fact that they're giving you 50, This is a home run deal. Let's get on a call with them. So then we scheduled a Zoom. The civil engineering team came in. They showed their credibility of what they've built around the Charleston area and what they're already working on in Columbia on another 200 home development. And essentially now we've just been going back and forth on contracting, but we've been on 2 Zooms with them. And all these conversations began the week of Christmas.
Wow.
So
Okay.
it's been some time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think I've sent them 4 different offers before we even got to the Novation agreement.
Oh, okay.
It was
Okay.
seller finance. It was
Yeah.
cash offers. It was a couple different things. And then they're like, no, we want this. And we're like, okay, we'll bring in our team and we'll get this all put together. And now we're very close to signing it. We'll get into the feasibility study
Okay.
process, but that is the portion of time where, hey, things might not work out, but
Right.
the team that we're working with, they're like, this is going to clear the feasibility study very quickly just based off of them doing their own due diligence. So it'll be cool. It'll be a cool story if we can get this all put together, but that's a 12 to 18 month timeline to see any returns on capital.
Was it to kind of make sure that I don't forget this topic, the expense is it split by 50-50? Like,
so they're providing the land, the developers are providing the capital. We were going to go raise capital through people that we know in Subto that loan on land development, but the civil engineering team, they're like, no, we have our own capital. We don't want to have additional people in on this deal, so we'll bring it in. But every county's different too. So like Lexington County, they require you to pay for all the tap fees on every lot that you're expecting to put in there. So you're talking 70 tap fees right out of the gate, and that's roughly $300,000 that they have to put up to even take it to the county to approve.
Wow.
And then you got to put a pump station in. So if there's those pump stations could run anywhere between $100,000 to $1 million, depending on the access and everything else. So there's a large capital expense that's going to have to go in to get this all ready before we even talk about getting it fully approved and then sending it off to a home builder in the area.
Okay. And then
the risk is a lot higher, even though the profits are bigger. So you got to make sure it's the right land, and you got to do a ton of due diligence and make sure that that the opportunity makes sense. Which goes back to what we talked about in the beginning. Minor subdivides are awesome because all you got to do is you got to find the right amount of road frontage, make sure the lots make sense from a sizing perspective, and you perk test all the lots so you can no septic or well could go out there if you don't have access to county water or sewer. And then from there, you just submit a survey and you can put the lots on the market. So,
and what's the projected profits that you'll probably make on this entitlement? $1 million?
Yeah, it's around one. Yeah, I think they were saying anywhere between 1 to 1.5 million
for the total group.
Yeah.
So
then 50% would go, and then the other 50 would go back to the developers.
Out of the other 50% that is not yours, you have 25% of the 50%. Is that what it is, or what do you?
We're getting 10%.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
that's still pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we're essentially just wedging ourselves in the deal as wholesalers, rather than, hey, we don't want a wholesale fee at closing. We want to learn. They know that we want to learn this space.
Yeah.
And we're trying. We actually brought them 2 entitlement opportunities. Just the other seller was being a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
And he just wanted cash right out of the gate. And then we asked him if we could go and do due diligence for 90 days, and he said no. We're like, well, there's clearly something wrong with this land then, if you're not willing to let us go in and do due diligence. He wanted $100,000 EMD non-refundable. I was like, okay, something's wrong with this land. We're not going to be buying it, even though it's a really good location and there's development happening all around it. Something is not adding up that we're not going to move forward with it.
Yeah, dude, man, that's awesome, bro. Like, thank you so much for the information, man. I really do appreciate that. Where can people I know you have I know you have is that a land group that you have? Land?
Yeah, it's currently in Facebook. It's called the Land League. But we will be transitioning to go high level communities because Austin had put a small mini course together. It's gonna be a free little course of like, hey, here's how you get started
Sweet.
in land and what you need to look for. And then I'm gonna do my own videos on like using the tools and comping and like some of the underwriting things on the back end. And then we're partnering up with a gentleman in the land space named Brandon Parker, who runs Landy Leads, that we work with, who is our cold callers and kind of runs operations on the back end with us. And he has a free course in there on teaching you how to set up your own cold callers in your business. So
Sweet.
that course will be in there for free as well. And yeah, so we're excited about that. And we're going to do a challenge, I think the first week of
Dope.
June, kind of like a no one left behind challenge around land.
Yeah, yeah.
And we're going to kick that off in June to help people get introduced to this asset class and figure out if this is the opportunity they want to pursue.
That'd be dope. So people can find that in the link in the description in the show notes if you guys want. And then how can people get a hold of you, Nick?
Yeah, I'll send you my Blink, but I'm not on social media as I should be, like Pace tells us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That is something I keep saying I'm gonna update every year, and I don't. But you can follow Austin Marvel. You can follow the Land League, and my Blink contact information will have my email and phone number. You can hit me up on LinkedIn too, because I'm starting to see more and more people in Sub2 posting on LinkedIn, which is great. Even you, Phil, and a few others, and I think that's great because that's a really underutilized asset that people should be using. And I unfortunately am still in incognito mode with my W-2, so I can't be posting about all my land deals that I'm doing on the side. Even though a lot of people here know what I do,
Yeah.
um,
Hilarious enough.
yeah, I don't want to get my hand slapped.
Cool, man. Thanks, bro. Appreciate the time, the transparency, man. And I'll talk to you later, man.
Awesome, appreciate it, Phil. Thank you.